Storyboard, this is Shibani Gharat and I am at the IAA World Congress in Kochi. This 3-day event attracted a galaxy of speakers from different walks of life. We get you all the action from the event and also tell you what some of the most prominent speakers had to say. Listen in.
The sheer magic of advertising makes this sentimental king buy things which he never needed.
We need to move our companies from CSR, corporate social responsibility, to make it RSC, responsible social corporations.
Brands can make the social change. Brands can help us to be better human beings, better friends.
It feels like Cannes, but it is in fact Kochi when I catch up with Sir Martin Sorrell on the sidelines of the IAA World Congress, and he spoke about the new reality. Sir Martin?
My first visit to God's own country.
Wonderful.
Yes, it is wonderful.
Welcome to God's own country and welcome to CNBC TV 18.
Good to be back.
So tell us, you spoke about the new reality. So what is the new reality for the advertising industry and what is the new reality for Sir Martin Sorrell?
Well, probably, hopefully it's the two are the coincident or the same. I think new reality is around three things. I mean, maybe we call it ill-advisedly the Holy Trinity, but what we see happening is first-party data or data as a whole driving content, basically digital content, and media planning and buying or programmatic. I mean, I notice in the supplement around the newspapers around this conference, there's a whacking great article about programmatic and its importance or potential importance in the context of the Cricket World Cup. So really, that's the new reality, that life has changed. It's about a unitary approach amongst the agencies instead of fragmented. You know, we know from my previous existence, and you know Srini running India actually is a very good example. I mean, you have strong brands here of WPP in India, a very strong business with a dominant market share. And the brands, you know, increasingly have to work together and increasingly have to digitize themselves or become more digital. I mean, the Indian market is slightly different to the world market in that it is more traditional in nature. I mean, it's got two speeds. You know, there's the traditional speed and the digital speed. And the digital speed, don't get me wrong, is very important in India in the context of a Bangalore or the like, or a Beijing, you know, in comparison to a Beijing. But having said that, the traditional industries are still very important. The traditional agencies are still very important. But the need for change, particularly as India becomes the world's most populous country and overtakes China in terms of scale and population, that will become important too.
So, you know, on a couple of occasions when I had spoken to you in the past, you've always emphasized on the fact that you are a business person. So what is the new reality?
Well, when people want to have a go at me, which they frequently did, they call me, or still do, they would call me a bean counter or an accountant, even worse than an accountant. No, I remember Jeremy Bullmore, who Piyush is almost as good as a creative director. But Jeremy Bullmore always said, yes, he does like to count beans. The more he counts, the better it is.
We're seeing you in India more often than earlier. Are you talking to any Indian clients?
Yes, we are. We're talking to.
Since you mentioned soon, how soon is going to be soon?
No, soon will be very soon. No, clients, people. We've made our first hire here. We'll be announcing the leader of our content business here. On the media planning and buying side, we're looking at that and our point of entry, because the Indian market is a little bit of an opaque market. Actually, it's not as transparent actually from a media point of view as perhaps other markets are, but that will change over time, and that is also being driven by the rise of Google here, by the rise of Facebook, the rise of Amazon, subject to legislation, Flipkart, Walmart, etc. I mean, the rise of the online platforms and of course, Star has been phenomenally successful in responding. Actually, if you look at what Uday has done here in an Indian context, and now looking a bit more broadly, obviously with his new responsibilities, it's extraordinary how the industry has adapted to digital change, but there's going to be more to go for. So that's really what we're focused on.
You mentioned, and you said a very interesting thing, that India is a very opaque market.
Occasionally I say interesting things.
You said how India is an opaque market,
yes.
From a media planning and buying perspective. How can we bring in more transparency in this
the
market?
supplement to this conference that I was reading in the hotel room when I got here talked about programmatic for the Indian World Cup. So, programmatic is something that we're heavily focused on with Mighty Hive, based in San Francisco, but now spread right around the world. One of the leading programmatic, if not the leading programmatic consultancy. It's not really an agency. So it works with clients on an in-house model, hybrid model, or you could have it out-house with the agency. And there are two big issues around in-housing. One is technology and keeping up with technology, because it's changing all the time. And with that cost pressure inside the companies, it's often very difficult for clients to keep up with the technology. The second is talent. How do you keep the best talent? If you're just confining them to one or two categories, how can you maintain their enthusiasm? So it's a difficult balance, but those areas are going to become more and more important. So I think inevitably there will be change in the industry.
So you already have programmatic taken care of, digital production taken care of with Media Monks and Mighty Hive.
Yeah.
What is next for Esco
Well, there's
Capital?
more of that. So, we've now got a considerable, not enormous cash flow. Last year our revenues were about $150 million. EBITDA was about 30. This year analysts are expecting, we have a market cap now of $600 million, which after 6 or 7 months is I think a good start, to put it mildly. And the market's expecting about $225 million of revenue and about $45 million of EBITDA, which is an organic increase of 50%, which is strong. I mean, Media Monks and Mighty Hive have been growing 50, 80%. Now, they can't carry on doing that forever, and they're small. I've described us as being a peanut. Maybe now we're a coconut or a coco de mer, which is a double-chambered coconut. So we've obviously got a little bit of scale, but it's very different to what historically I've been used to. But so we'll see whether we can do something about that. But the growth rates are very strong, and with what we have in the content and programmatic area, I think we have enough. We'll do more infill. There are one or two things more that I'd like to do from an acquisition point of view. But the first-party data thing is really interesting. I mean, it's not easy. You saw IPG bought Axiom. They left the most interesting part of Axiom behind, which is LiveRamp, which now has a market value of $3.5 billion. So these first-party data assets, which mostly reside with clients. So, for example, when we do a Netflix film campaign or Netflix content campaign at Media Monks, they give us their first-party data. We tailor content. And Mighty Hive, in other situations, not in the case of Netflix, but in other situations, would distribute that content in the most effective way.
We're sitting in the election year, and during the last elections, WPP played a big role in PM Modi's
I'm sure it will
victory.
Again. Yeah.
Do you think a country like India needed a brand like Modi?
I think he's done a phenomenal job. Obviously, bringing about change is difficult when you do things like demonetization and GST. You obviously create some friction and some tensions. So it will be interesting to see what happens in the next election. On the basis of the taxi driver, I said to them, the taxi driver coming in from the airport, who's going to win the next election, which the view I was given was that Modi would win it again, but his majority would not be as strong as it had been
for the last
historically. And therefore that might limit him in some way as to what he could do in terms of change. But listen, I think he's been good for India. certainly on a world stage.
While doing research for this interview, I stumbled upon a very interesting quote.
You did some research for this, you've got to help us.
Very interesting quote of yours. It says, you say that Brexit is a metaphor for the ad industry, and clients feel they need to take back control.
Yes.
Why do you say that? And if it's true, I think it is true. What should the agencies do in such a situation?
No, they shouldn't. They should keep doing what they're doing. We'll do what we're doing. No, I was watching a film on the Brexit campaign. Dominic Cumberbatch, an actor, played Dominic Cummings, I think his name was, who ran the campaign. And his tagline was, "Take back control." And as I was sitting there watching it, I was thinking, well, you know, this is exactly what we see. And it comes to that, you know, as we built these client-based agencies, you know, like a Ford or maybe even a Colgate-Palmolive, Red Fuse, I think the clients felt that they were almost being surrounded. Okay, then you had the rise of those walled gardens and clients feeling that their relationships with the consumers were being threatened. They were pressurized to reduce cost by the procurement and finance functions for understandable reasons. So they felt they were losing control. With the importance of the one-to-one relationship and the importance of controlling the data and the content and always on and 24/7 and being more responsive and not slow, faster, better, cheaper, I think that generally sort of made clients feel a bit insecure. You know, here we are at the IAA and we know that the American Advertising Association, the Client Association, we know the WFA, the World Federation, were concerned about issues around transparency. I think unfairly so. I don't think there were the stuff that was claimed to be being done. And if there was always a transparent model that clients could choose and go down that route. But that was a perception issue, which we should have understood as an industry. But putting that to one side, I think clients felt sort of hemmed in, so they wanted to take back control or exercise control, have more functions internally, or even look at having more functions internally. And I think that's clearly what's been going on. And I think the reason why, and I've seen amazing resonance of our model, the faster, better, cheaper model, with clients. I mean, there isn't. When I was at CES in January,
is that what the agencies should follow in the coming days? What should be the agency strategy in such a situation?
I don't think they have a choice. I mean, it's an existential issue.
Almost every other agency over the past few months, I have seen many, in fact, undergoing a restructure. There's a merger happening, there's a rebranding happening. Do you think every other entity is really struggling for survival in this industry?
Well, I mean, look, the traditional agencies have to change. They're changing in two ways. One is they're consolidating, which refers to some of the things you've been talking about, and the others. And then there is, you know, the other school, which at the moment is in the ascendancy because Omnicom and IPG, their organic growth, and Dentsu. Well, Dentsu's model is slightly different. Dentsu is positioned very similar to S4 Capital, or we're positioned in very similarly because they're in media, they're in digital and data with Merkle. And I think that's of the big six, they have the best positioning. But you've got these two sort of schools, and the consolidation school, the Publicis, WP, I mean, by nature, if you're slamming together businesses, it's going to take you 2 or 3 years or 4 years or even more. You go back and look at IPG when they're in trouble around the year 2000, I think it took them 8 years to get out of the mire. So these changes are long term, and it may be the consolidation is better than strengthening the individual brands, but it'll take longer time for the results to show.
So in such a scenario, what according to you is going to be the most important function in the coming days in the traditional agency setup? Is it going to be planning? Is it going to be, accounts? Is it going to be creative? What?
So again, an interesting question. The irony about S4 Capital is that we're sort of bringing back together creative and media, right, in a way, right? And this unitary approach, no earn-outs, because it leads to too much fragmentation in my view. So what the client wants is seamless execution, one person to talk to, etc. So in a funny way, we're bringing creative content back together with media programmatic. Because it's narrower around digital, it's probably easier, because we don't have the history of, media departments inside crumbling agencies. You know, around the new millennium, at Ogilvy and JWT, they were losing so much media business because the creative department was dominant. There's more equality, there's more sort of gender equality, if I can put it that way, using gender in the context of, probably get shot for saying this, in the context of media and content, bringing that much more together in parity, instead of the creative people feeling they are up here in the media, we're just sort of trading slaves who didn't get the bonuses or Ferraris or corner offices. So it's a bit, you know, like John Hamm and Mad Men.
So, final question, taking a cue from the two most important recent events, one is the CES and Davos that you personally attended. What will be the future for the world business and especially advertising?
Well, CES, I think the amazing thing was the degree to which CMOs and marketing people there, and tech people, and CIOs and CTOs, and even chief sales officers, because that's where Amazon focal point is, were willing to experiment. So if we went in with the faster, better, cheaper line, or the unitary line, or the digital only, or the Holy Trinity, we got tremendous response from that, and that's one thing. But Davos is sort of slightly different. I think you know, governments weren't there. They were minding their store because they had problems, whether it was in the US with the shutdown, whether it was in the UK with Brexit, whether it was in France with the yellow vests, the gilets jaunes, which we now have in England as well, or Britain as well. So they were minding their own store. The industrialists, or the people who are running businesses, I found were not depressed, but were cautious. The financiers were not ebullient, but were very positive. So, but the interesting thing about that is that despite all the short-term problems, political problems, business was in fairly vibrant mood. It was not depressed.
Okay, so vibrant and not depressed. Thank you so much.
So, and we're very vibrant and certainly not depressed about India and its prospects.
All right, thank you so much. Thanks for speaking
very good.
to us.
Thank you very much.
Lovely meeting you.
Serum
Institute of India has launched a nationwide vaccination and immunization campaign called Swasth Immunized India in association with Network 18. They have also roped in Bollywood actor Kareena Kapoor Khan. Storyboard's Ankita Saxena caught up with Kareena on the sidelines of this launch. Listen to the full conversation.
I'm at the launch of the Swasth Immunized India campaign by Serum Institute, and I have with me an actor who's turned the male-dominated industry on its head. Marriage did not stop her, neither did motherhood. She is still a force to reckon with. I have with me Kareena Kapoor Khan. Kareena, welcome to CNBC TV 18. Kareena, tell us about the Swasth Immunized India campaign and your association with it.
I think I'm absolutely honored to be a part of the voice for this campaign, because of course, apart from Natasha and Adil being dear friends of mine, when they actually spoke to me about this, I think it was something that instantly connected and resonated with me. It was something that I'm going through personally myself with Taimur, going through his immunization journey, and understanding that how important it is for the growth of your child. I think that to actually be someone who can speak about this openly, who can come onto a platform and talk about this, I think that I'm hoping that people would find that connect, that belief, because basically people, I think, have to just believe in the voice. And this is something that I'm personally speaking, so I'm hoping that there would be that connect. People would come out and understand the value of immunization, understand the knowledge behind it.
Kareena, you are now a mother of a baby boy. So how important is it for you that your child gets vaccinated on time, and how will you ensure that you give a healthy life to your child?
In fact, I think we're constantly worried about our child. Every mother is like that, every parent is like that, where we're constantly worried, we don't want him to fall sick, we don't want him to get a fever, we don't want him to, and these immunizations protect you from actually life-threatening diseases. True. So this knowledge and this awareness has to be created amongst all the young mothers and all the young parents out there. In fact, I'm very particular about my vaccination chart. I'm someone who is I make 3 copies of it so that I know that I have this and I'm tick marking it, writing the date personally myself. Because I understand after researching that how important it is, you know, to for our child, and also I feel for our future generations. I mean, you know, our children have to grow up in a healthy, prosperous atmosphere.
Yeah. So how do you think will this campaign help in educating young Indian parents about the importance of vaccination and moreover dispelling the myths that surrounds vaccination and immunization in our country?
I think the idea is that of course the celebrity being attached to it is wonderful, but of course we have amazing support from the government. We have it on all levels. It's not just, you know, national, state, local, all levels. I think we're getting amazing, tremendous support with vaccinators, manufacturers coming together to serve the public, you know, whether it's Serum Institute India, whether it's different vaccinators are coming together. We are ready to set up camps. The government is doing that. I think with that combined with, you know, the voice of a celebrity, combined with us talking about it, I feel even if there's a discussion that starts, you know, with amongst people, I think that's the start of a journey, you know, for our Swasth Immunized campaign.
True. Kareena, you have practically endorsed everything under the sun, right from hair care products to beauty products to bags, you name it and you have done it. How is your endorsing a cause or getting associated with the cause different from your other endorsements in terms of your approach and your involvement?
I think, you know, every artist has a certain image, certain personality, certain persona that is attached to them. I think that is one thing that I think I've always kept in mind, that it should, you know, definitely have some connectivity towards me. We see internationally that celebrities have brought about monumental social changes, you know, across the globe, and closer to home we've seen Mr. Bachchan, who's spoken so closely about polio, and now, you know, we're practically in a polio-free nation, which is amazing. So I think if actors have that capacity to do it, and this was something, because being a mother and a young mother myself, I completely understand even the myths and misconceptions, you know, which we have to battle. There is that constant, there are 2 sides to every coin, but you know, if you hear it personally from a mother who's experienced it as well, we're hoping that that would, you know, lead this campaign and this entire brainchild of Swasth Immunized India to be a huge success.
Kareena, what happens when a celebrity decides to endorse a cause, you know, in terms of the reach, the awareness, probably the influence that you have?
I think, like I said, we've seen it, you know, taken by storm, you know, the whole polio campaign. The idea is that, of course, this is Swasth Immunized India is also a campaign which I think, you know, the government has supported so closely, you know, with Mission Andhadhanush, with, you know, so many of that already, where we've done work so much towards it from 2014, you know, the government has been tirelessly working towards it, and now to finally have a celebrity who's ready to talk about it openly, who's ready to, you know, go out there, want people, not, like I said, not just in cities, whereas in, you know, the smallest of, you know, villages in India, that is where actually we want it to reach, you know. So if my voice could help with that, I think that would, like I said, be the biggest joy and achievement to me.
Yeah. Kareena, post-motherhood, has your approach towards your brand endorsement deals changed, in the sense that are you more conscious of, you know, choosing brands that are more socially relevant, or are brands with purpose?
No, I think it's always been something that, you know, would...
Something that resonates with you.
With associates with me, you know. As far as this being, of course, you know, socially so relevant and so important, I think this just happened because it was very organic. You know, the reaction was very like, you know, if I'm doing it, I would want every...
Something that you're going through probably right now.
Exactly. And if Taimur is going through it, I would want, you know, the entire nation's child to go through it and, you know, have, you know, a healthy life ahead. That is what we all want. That is what we all mothers want for our child.
True. Thank you so much for joining us, Kareena. Lovely having you.
Thank you.
With that, it's a wrap on Storyboard this week. You can catch all of our content on Facebook, Twitter and YouTube. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back same time next week. See you soon.